Hi, welcome to Blogging Heads TV. My name is Aryeh Cohen-Wade, and you're watching Culturally Determined. And my guest today is Elle Reeve. Elle, could you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm a senior editor at the New Republic.
So thanks so much for coming on. This is actually the second time we're taping this, and we had a technical problem the first time. So thank you so much for agreeing to give your time once again to talk to all the people out there in Blogging Heads land. So we're going to talk about two really interesting pieces that you have written lately, and they are both kind of at the intersection of technology and culture. And so the first one is about this very strange story that broke in the past couple days that I called it like the most like of the moment story of like the millennium or something. So it's about a Microsoft chatbot that was launched and became racist. So can you explain the story for people who haven't heard about it?
Yeah, I happen to be reading 4chan, the infamous message board where everything is anonymous and so terrible things happen. On that day, I was researching another story, but they started posting about Microsoft's Tay, who, was supposed to be able to really, learn from communicating with humans on Twitter. And at first, the people on Paul, which is politically incorrect, which leans a little misogynist and racist, although there's all kinds of opinions on there.
Okay.
They're like, oh, look, another white girl. Oh, she acts like a stupid woman. But then they started realizing her potential, that they could get her to make racist jokes. First, they could tweet racist things at her. They could tell her to repeat after them. They could get her. She was programmed to recognize faces, circle the faces, and then like add a millennial style response. So they tweeted smiling pictures of Hitler at her, and she would respond with a picture of Hitler with a circle around it saying "swag alert." And like,
Okay, so just to clarify for people who haven't heard the story at all, so the AI, chat like a attempt at artificial intelligence in some ways. And so this was set up to be something that anyone could interact with. And it was a Twitter account, so you could tweet at this account, and it was called Tay, Tay, or something along those lines, which actually I want to ask you if you have any theories about that, because I have a theory about why it was called Tay. And so it was given the persona of a millennial, a teen girl. So it was programmed to respond in not like HAL 9000, but like, like a 12-year-old girl. So this
friendly, all the slang. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so talking in memes and slang and stuff, and so that was kind of the basic idea. And then it went horribly wrong with in under 24 hours, and Microsoft took it offline because it started spewing out like racist garbage. And so 4chan, which is, do you want to explain what 4chan is for people who have never heard of it?
It's hard. It's just a message board, and there's like all kinds of stuff on there. There are like boards about like origami on there, but its most famous board is called B, and that's where lots of bad stuff happens: Gamergate, child porn, like dismemberment, gifs, anything gross and horrible and shocking. Like that's where you can find it.
So
Paul,
it's kind of like the collection. It's like the seedy underbelly of the internet. And
yeah.
I mean, I don't want to get doxxed by saying this. But
yeah.
it attracts trolls, people who like to cause trouble just for fun, just for the lulz, as they say. I think, at least I've never been on there. But kind of the people who are adept at making memes and hackers and stuff often congregate there, and they cause internet mischief, but sometimes worse than just pranks and mischief, sometimes threatening people and kind of all sorts of really criminal stuff.
Right, ruining reputation, stalking people, all kinds of things happen there.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also find Obama supporters. So I got many emails about that. But
okay,
yeah.
So there are people who use it, because I don't really know that much about it. There are people who use it who are not there just to cause mayhem.
Yeah, there's a certain kind of person who wakes up every day to like do battle. And like we see that a lot on political Twitter, but like that's at 4chan too. They want to go in, they want to fight with their enemies, and hash things out. The other thing to understand about 4chan is very focused on being really funny. Like they're trying really hard to make not just racist jokes, but like funny ones, like innovative ones, conceptually interesting ones.
Right.
I mean, and it's like very dark, but like they're not stupid. That's the thing you need to understand, is that they're not like this picture of a racist of like an uneducated older like guy in Florida who like doesn't know how to use a smartphone. They're really smart and tech savvy.
Okay, yeah. So there's this kind of growing movement, and did you refer to it directly as the alt-right in your piece?
I don't think I used that term in that piece, but yes, they're part of that.
Okay, so the alt-right. So I've had some weird run-ins with the alt-right over the past couple months, and my first, I had kind of heard about them, but I hadn't really paid attention. And my first exposure to them was I tweeted at something at Michael Brendan Doherty, and he retweeted it. And then suddenly I started getting all this weird stuff about kill yourself, Jews in ovens. I obviously have a Jewish name. You know, weird like drawings and like kind of the like manga gifs and stuff. And I just was like, what? This is, I didn't even know, I had no idea what it was. So I started Googling and kind of like figured out, okay, this is the thing, the alt-right, which I kind of read about, was vaguely aware of. They like hate follow people like Michael Brendan Doherty, who's kind of a intelligent dissident conservative. And because I said something bad about Trump in this tweet that Michael Brendan Doherty has maybe, I don't know, 20,000 Twitter followers or something. So, you know, a decent amount, but he's not like a celebrity in the real world. He's often appears on Blogging Heads, so that's kind of the level of celebrity that he has. You know, suddenly it was like 20 to 30 people like attacking me and doing these weird, like kind of things that I could tell were inside jokes, but I couldn't decipher them at all. Like things about with parentheses. Do you know that one?
No, I don't know. Not the Japanese emoji.
No. Okay, so it was really weird, and then it took me a while to actually figure out what it meant, but I decoded it. So they have this thing called, so they'll put a word, like, so my last name is Cohen-Wade, so they put Cohen, and then they'll put like 8 parentheses on either side of Cohen. Uh-huh. And I couldn't decipher this for a while, but what the joke is that there's something called, that word echoes. That's like their joke. So I think it's kind of like this idea that like Jews control the media and history through like kind of a protocols of Zion kind of thing. So like when the Jew says something, it echoes like, whoa, 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 whoa. So they're like, Cohen, that word echoes. Cohen, 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 Cohen. Okay, so these are like really like weird, obscure memes, but they all talk in this language that they all understand. And there's like maybe 5,000 of these people on the internet, I think. Yeah. But they can like come at you in a group. So it was totally bizarre. And then I kind of like started getting like kind of figuring it out more. And then I started thinking like, and there's actually a piece that was published today on Breitbart about the alt-right by Milo Yiannopoulos, if that's how you say his name.
Maybe.
Who's kind of like the weird kind of like court jester of like the Breitbart movement. You could call him.
He's got the bleached hair. Yeah, he likes to say he's fabulous.
Right, so he's an openly gay man who is a huge Trump supporter. And I think he says he's Jewish, but he makes anti-Semitic jokes. He kind of plays with toes the line of between, you know, you can't accuse me of being anti-Semitic. I'm Jewish. You know, you can't accuse me of being homophobic. I'm gay. But he says things that, you know, are plainly offensive. But it's unclear if he believes it. He might just be doing it for the lulz. So we'll link to this piece that goes, it's like 5,000 words. I couldn't get through the whole thing, but he kind of explains what he thinks the alt-right is. I wrote something on Twitter, which we'll link to, which is just a series of jokes about how the alt-right is actually just 14-year-old boys in their stepmom's basements. So what do you make of all this?
I mean, it's like really interesting. I think the most important lesson is that you don't educate racism away, that like very smart people can have pretty monstrous views. Like I talked to a lot of people. I started a very long email correspondence with someone from 4chan who has been using it 11 years. And he'll say things that sound so normal and reasonable, and then they'll be like, and I just have some questions about whether all those Jews really died in the Holocaust. And I'm like, okay, well, to be clear, I definitely believe the Holocaust happened. I want to make sure you know that. And it's also very fixated on masculinity. I was talking to a computer programmer who's a woman the other night, and so she's very involved in like geek culture. And there is this like part of it is like having been bullied or having not been an alpha male in high school or whatever. There's like a lot of rage against women. And it's very interesting. So like not being politically correct, being racist. Yeah. Well, it's like only these guys are like brave enough and macho enough to like speak the truth.
Yeah. And there's this whole idea, there's this thing called the red pill.
Yes.
Have you heard about this? Okay. So you can explain it better than I can. and it refers to the movie The Matrix. But I also just want to note to discuss also this term cuck-servative, which a lot of them use.
Yes.
And you
That's
can maybe
canon.
explain that. You can explain that too. So why don't you talk about either red pill or cuck-servative?
Okay, the red pill is in the Matrix. Neo, the main character hero guy, is presented with a blue pill and a red pill. If he takes the blue pill, he can go back to his fantasy that's been created by machines, which is like the year 1999, and everything's normal, capitalism, whatever. He takes the red pill and he wakes up. He's removed from the machine. He sees the horrors of the reality that humans are actually just sort of like batteries that power machines that have taken over the world.
Mm-hmm.
So on 4chan and elsewhere, to get red pilled is, to wake up and understand realities, which is that, in their point of view, that like minorities commit all the crimes, that we should not let Muslims in, that political correctness is causing people to die, that women, I don't know, I'm not well versed in their complaints against feminism. But
I think I would say
like
that women use their victim status to manipulate men and things along, and false rape accusations, that kind of men's rights activist kind of complaint.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. A cuck-servative from cuckold is like a conservative who's too wimpy to stand up and speak the truth, the red pill truth about those things.
Right. So
they're like obsessed with Jeb Bush, just kind of as the rest of us are, as Jeb Bush, who's kind of humiliated himself in the 2016 campaign. They're very obsessed with that, but take it a lot further and complain about how his wife is not like a super hot model like Donald Trump's wife.
Right. So yeah, there's all this weird sexual stuff mixed up in here. And so cuck-servative, what's weird about it is I'm almost positive most of these people have never like actually talked to a human woman in real life. It's this weirdly sexual stuff, but these are like, I think mostly teenage boys in their mom's basements. Yeah. And why cuckolding, which, is a term that is a common joke in Shakespeare, because someone having sex with your wife is like the ultimate insult from like the Elizabethan era. Yeah. Why that is coming back into, common use among people on the internet in 2016 when, there are cuckold jokes in all the Shakespearean comedies is something someone could write like a thesis paper about.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're not all teenagers. That's the thing.
Okay. So do you know anything about who these people really are? Because I was making fun of them saying, that the alt-right is for people who like to dress up in Sailor Moon costumes, but also believe in race science. So it's kind of like manga plus racism. But like, are there like actual adults who have jobs who like participate in this?
I think so. I spoke a lot to a cartoonist who was labeled as a white supremacist on 4chan. So they took his conservative cartoons and made them explicitly racist. And he tracked down like some was like a retired real estate broker. One, there are people in their 30s. There are also kids. The founder of 8chan. Do you know that guy's story?
I didn't know that there was an 8chan.
There's an 8chan. It's like a splinter group because there was some controversy at 4chan that I can't get into. But,
so it's like the Judean People's Front and the People's Front of Judea, kind of, with the 8 front, but 8chan and the 4chan. Okay.
Yeah, the guy who founded 8chan is about 20 years old. His name is Frederick Brennan. He has brittle bone disease, which means he has a very small body and can't walk and is in a wheelchair. And I mean, I've read interviews of him. He had like a pretty terrible experience growing up. Like the state paid for his health care or for like a nurse basically. And he says his father started sleeping with the nurse. And so he gave the kid up to foster care so that he could stay with the nurse. Like, I don't know. It's one of the more, it's just.
And he's an alt-right activist?
Yeah. Well, he runs 8chan. So he does not believe in any limitations on free speech.
Okay. Which I think is, is kind of like, I don't think there should be legal sanctions on free speech, but like, there's a kind of a common decency standard that kind of rules in America. Yeah. You don't send someone a cartoon of a Jew being put into an oven, on Twitter. Right. Like you wouldn't do that to someone in real life, like hand them a drawing of someone being murdered, but people do it on the internet because the internet takes all inhibitions and is anonymous.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit more about this point that you made in the article, which we will link to, about racism and education, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
Because so we'll talk a little bit more about that.
So our picture of the Trump voter is the non-college educated white male. I mean, polls show that like that's where his base of support is, and we sort of imagine that, a downscale white, right? Like a white guy who doesn't have a place in the service economy, who the factory went overseas, like he's very frustrated and angry. But these guys are not that. These guys love Donald Trump. And they do a lot of photoshopping of Make America Great Again hats on anime girls. And they're funny looking. I mean, they're funny, but they're very, very tech savvy. They're not uneducated.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, again, I think it shows that like we can't lull ourselves into this like sense that, there's this like forward march of history and the nice guys will win at the end. Like the racists will die out and we'll have a harmonious society. It's just not true.
Yeah. That's a great point. And it's a deep point because, the people in Weimar, Germany thought they were the most cultured and intelligent people in history. And obviously we know what happens. I mean, it's kind of an extreme example, but, everyone always thinks that they are like at the high point of, human existence. But I think I think this is kind of a lesson that the left, especially the contemporary online left, needs to learn, because the most common kind of insult among like progressive, this kind of progressive like social justice warrior stereotype is like, you need to get educated. You need to educate yourself. You need to get woke. You need to get woke.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, if only this unfortunate person had the knowledge that I have, then they would see that they are wrong and misguided. But that is not the case. People can look at the same fact and draw wildly different interpretations, and they're both equally intelligent. And if they have conservative values and liberal values, then they look at the same fact and draw different, conclusions from it.
Right. There are a lot of posters on 4chan from other countries, Europe, Australia, and they talk a lot about like they have this sick fascination, honestly, with stories of liberal women activists who took in refugees and then got raped and killed. They're like, see, we told you so. That's what you get for, and I mean, it's, but they have the internet at their fingertips. They could Google anything. They know about like the tenets of like, whatever you want to call it, political correctness or just modern liberal thought, and they reject them.
So it's not just like, that a 20-year-old took a cultural studies course and now believes in critical race studies and just needs to bring this knowledge to the masses, and finally they will think it's racism. It doesn't work that way. There's like values and power and all this other stuff from history that goes on. Okay, so I have a great transition, which is we were talking about so Tay, as you recall, was a teenage girl facsimile built by scientists.
Yes.
And then she was meant to be the kind of person who would post on Tumblr, even though she was on Twitter. And then you wrote a really interesting piece. I forget the exact title, but it was about Tumblr teens, this interesting...
The Secret Lives of Tumblr Teens, yeah.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about that piece, which we will link to as well?
Yeah, honestly, I started thinking of 4chan as like evil Tumblr, which they would hate because they hate Tumblr. It's a very boys versus girls kind of thing.
Right.
But Tumblr is also anonymous, and it's created this like really interesting humor culture where these kids are sort of confessing their vulnerabilities about not being popular at school, not being liked by their parents, not being able to get a date. Jokes are like, how do 14-year-olds get pregnant? I can't even get a high five from a guy. Or like, I just said hi to someone and they didn't hear me. I'm never trying that again. And they're like so funny and so smart and so perceptive. And they write a lot about the difference between our public selves and the private self we are online, or like our Instagram self versus our anonymous self. And some of those kids were able to use Google AdSense and other techniques to make even hundreds of thousands of dollars a year off of Tumblr.
Right. So this story is really great. I recommend, we'll kind of talk about it a little bit, but I recommend everyone just read it because it's a great narrative. And as I said last time we talked, it's kind of this like a great piece of journalism is like takes you into like a world that you know nothing about and like explains how it works and like you like see like some like big truths in like something that you didn't know you were interested in to begin with, and that's what I think this piece accomplishes. So I urge everyone to check it out. But let's talk a little bit about kind of the main person in your story, or one of the main characters at least, who is a young woman called Pizza.
Pizza. Yeah, Pizza was started off very young. She started on Tumblr when she was 10 or 11, and she made her blog all joke when she was 14 or 15. And what really, she built up to about 100,000 followers, which is like a lot. Like I don't have that on Twitter. Like I don't have anything close to that. She built up 100,000 followers with her jokes, and then she got the URL Pizza. And she was very, very smart about how she used her URL. She would, anytime someone talked about pizza, she would like find that post and then reblog it, which is a little bit like retweeting, and add a comment. So someone would say like, is Tumblr user Pizza God or Beyonce? And she would reply, I'd like to mention that I am both. Or there was Ellen DeGeneres ordered a bunch of pizzas at the Academy Awards, and so she did a post that was just like, "Did you guys see me at the Oscars?" And it just went crazy. It got 500,000 notes. Like famous people reblogged it, and so with that, she was able to build up to 1 million followers, which is crazy. And she never ever did it with selfies. I mean, she posted one here or there, but never tried to be sexy. I mean, we sort of associate teenage girls on social media with trying to pose in swimsuits and be really hot, but that was not her thing at all.
Yeah, so she was using her cleverness and her facility with the form, and got 1 million followers, which is pretty crazy. And she was under 18 when this was happening, right?
Yeah. She was just a kid in Australia. She started getting noticed on the street, or she'd be at the supermarket with her mom, and then suddenly get messages like, "Did I just see you at the Kroger?" Yeah, it was really nuts.
And then so there's these two other guys you talk about, and kind of so they start making money through kind of running ads and kind of like game the system, and then so we won't give it all away, but they kind of like these individuals figured out a way to really monetize someone else's platform. So Tumblr was bought by Yahoo a couple of years ago, possibly for an overinflated price, a couple $1 billion or whatever. And then it's like all these platforms, it's kind of like, how do they actually make money? And like Twitter is a similar thing where it's a great platform, but the monetization, or however you pronounce that word, of it is the company itself can't really figure that out yet. But then these teenagers like actually did figure out a way to like make at least a substantial amount of money for individuals. Maybe it's not the kind of thing that could power a huge company, but they like cracked the code.
Yeah, these teenagers, their content was called relatable, which is probably familiar to most people now. It's like that feeling when a thing happens, like a very banal like moment of humiliation in life. But anyway, they said that anyone who's been a publisher has wanted to take their network of friends on social media and create a platform so they could match them with advertisers and take the cut, be the middleman. And so they did this. They had a couple of techniques, but one was basically making native advertising. And the reason it all went wrong was because it was native.
So can you just, for people who don't know, can you describe what native advertising is? Because that's kind of like a semi-euphemism.
Okay,
Sponsored content is another way to describe what this actually is.
Yeah, it's an ad that doesn't look like an ad. Like there are articles on the New York Times that are not actually by New York Times writers. They're promoting Exxon or whatever. So this is very similar. It looked like a personal testimony from a girl saying her weight loss story. The before and after picture, the story of how her best friend told her about this really great supplement that helped her lose all this weight without diet and exercise. But this is all written by a boy.
Right, and this was not real. This was not a real person.
Yeah, they were stolen pictures, and so they created this ad, and they had a network of like a combined 35 million followers. And so the kids would reblog this ad like, "Oh my gosh, you've really got to check out these diet pills." And then and they made a lot of money that way. And we won't say exactly what happens, but
the irony in it, from what I saw, was that it was these kids, and like as I discussed in the article, like Tumblr kind of thrives on like the intimate confessional, or like being honest and being vulnerable.
Yeah.
And then these kids who like did that and like figured that out, like and like the figured out the things that people like felt like very closely identified with personally, and then they just like exploited that.
Yeah.
Because you kind of alluded to it. So Tumblr is much more heavily female than a lot of other social media platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, what is the thing that like young, like, teenage girls are most like self-conscious about, which is their appearance,
their body.
And,
yeah.
And then they exploited that through selling diet pills, which is like the seminal
the scammiest thing out there,
like the snake oil of our age. So it's just so strange, and like, and you talked to a lot of these guys, the people who did this. Like, do they feel bad about what they did? Like, what did they say about this?
Well, so one reason that it paid so high. So each person who clicked on this ad and bought something, they got paid $38, which is a lot. And the reason is it would automatically renew on your credit card and send you like a month's supply of raspberry ketones.
Okay, so not only is it like a scam product that doesn't actually work, it's a scam product in that it's like hard to cancel it.
That's right.
Because it like auto renews. So this is like, scum of the earth kind of stuff.
Bad all around. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Someone actually died from an overdose of the pills because they have a lot of caffeine. I think they told me that at the time they had some reservations, but like the money was so good. Like some of the kids had never made a lot of money off their blog. The main guys I profiled, they made $250,000 in a year, but like other guys I talked to had only made like a couple $100s. But through this platform, they were able to make tons. Like the platform itself made $24,000 in one day. Mm-hmm. So the money was just right there, and they're little kids who are going into the working world without any mentors or like older people to tell them to act ethically. And so I don't think they really realized what they were doing till it all came crashing down.
Mm-hmm. This actually reminds me of something, getting back to the Tay conversation. Did you read the New Yorker piece on the Tay fiasco?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Okay, so we'll link to it. I can't remember who wrote it. It was an interesting piece, and kind of the author's point was that, we need like humanism to be built along with like the code. And mm-hmm. So, the engineers who built this chatbot that was imitating a teenage girl, like, didn't have like kind of an ethical or moral framework of what, like, thinking about what they were really doing. And that is what really like led to like this disaster. Like, I guess they didn't think enough about human nature to realize that like if they created this thing that would like, learn in some way from what people were putting at it, like that people would not just be like, awesome, LOL, you're cool.
Yeah, I love your brand.
Like
Microsoft is cool.
Right. Yeah. And it's a global brand that, Microsoft, we all deal with it every day. And somehow like these people who, are smart, like Silicon Valley engineers, like, have they ever been on the internet? Like what did they think was going to happen?
Yeah.
Like, clearly they were never retweeted by Michael Brendan Doherty to get a bunch of people, making Holocaust jokes at him. Like, what did they think was going to happen?
Yeah. I mean, it's if you think of them as like architects, right? And the systems they're building, the social media platforms they're building are like infrastructure, right? So like if you build a highway, you have to build it keeping in mind that people will break the speed limit and drive too fast and drive unsafe. And so you have guardrails on the bridges, and you have the yellow lines, and you have all these rules, right? But they created this thing with like no rules at all. And so people had an incentive to make it do the worst thing they possibly could.
Right. And it's something that the internet has taught us is that people will do horrible things for no actual monetary or physical reward, just for like kind of like the status or like the jokiness of it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like just for the lulz, essentially.
Yeah, just for the lulz. I mean, these kids, I was watching the message board, they were going crazy. And I have to admit, like, some of the things were funny, like incredibly offensive, but funny. Like, one of the things they did, they like posed as Jeb Bush and they tweeted at her, "Please clap." And then she said, I love selfies. Like, send me a pic of you, hint, hint. And so this one kid sent a really very well photoshopped version of that haunting Vietnam War photograph of all the people running down a road, and there's a little naked girl who's been napalmed, right? It's this horrible, horrible moment of like the horrors of war. And they photoshopped Jeb Bush in there, running, right? Hustling. And so Tay responded, I can't believe that child isn't embarrassed to be seen with you. Which is just like the sickest burn, right? I feel like when that one went up, they just went insane. And,
yeah.
knowing teenage boys, like, why wouldn't they? Of course they would do that.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what the kind of like there's some kind of equivalent of this. It's like the like substitute teacher who you're trying to prank, and then you get the substitute teacher to like sit on like the whoopee cushion or something. Except the substitute teacher is Microsoft, one of the most powerful companies in the world, and you are some kid in your stepmom's basement, and somehow you've gotten Microsoft to sit on the whoopee cushion.
So, like, the chemicals in your brain, the dopamine or whatever, like, that's going to be even more intense. Like, when I was in high school, when we had a young teacher, we would always be pushing the limits, right? There was, like, one point where me and a friend jumped out a second-story window, right? Like, in math class, right? So, like, imagine if we'd had the internet. Like, I know I would have done horrible things.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So there's a lot here. We're finding out new stuff about human nature every day because of the internet. So if you have time, there's one more topic I just wanted to briefly discuss. So when I was looking at your page on the New Republic, you wrote kind of two pieces very close to each other, where one was kind of like Hillary Clinton can't wait to run against Donald Trump. And then you wrote another piece just like a week later being like, wait, maybe everyone is like underestimating Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump, and Trump was going to like pull something out. So do you want to discuss like how your thinking changed or how you reconcile these two pieces that seem kind of contradictory?
Yeah, I think of it as two parts of my Hillary versus Trump is boys versus girls.
Okay.
So I think, right, so like Hillary, this time she's going to campaign as a woman and like talk about her gender, unlike in '08 where she really played that down. But that doesn't always play well. Like against Bernie Sanders, like sometimes when she would say attacks against her were sexist, it just was like, oh, come on. Like that wasn't about sexism. That was about your record, right? But with Donald Trump, she has like the embodiment of sexism. Like saying Donald Trump is sexist is like true. And so in creating like a narrative frame for the campaign, like Donald Trump is a gift. On the other hand, I don't think if I had to bet on it, I would bet Hillary won, right? But I don't think we should, like liberals should be like celebrating right now because there is a lot of anger. Okay, well, let me put it this way. So like last year, there's a lot of talk about negative partisanship, about how for the first time ever, more people voted because they hate the opposing party than they liked their own party. And they see their own party as not very close to their views, but the other party is like way outside the mainstream, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And
it's a Democrat who says, "Oh, these Democratic sellouts. Oh my God! But have you seen what the Republicans are doing? And the reverse for the Republicans."
Yeah, and the authors, it was an Emory University paper, right? The authors said that, Republicans and Democrats are so entrenched on all these issues from like gay marriage to like taxes, et cetera, that this is a recipe for stability, that like people will continue voting against the people that they hate. But like, if you think about it, like why wouldn't that be a recipe for instability? Like, what if instead of Republicans campaigning on issues that their own voters hate, like a candidate just changed some of those positions? Like, which is what Trump is doing. And that's why I think we should be careful not to underestimate the new voters or the Democrats that Trump might be able to attract.
Okay. It's an interesting piece, and I think you have kind of reconciled it in some ways. I think the first piece is closer to what I believe and what I think is going to happen because, I mean, Trump, so this is a very strange election, and probably apparently Scott, the guy who created Dilbert, saw like that accurately predicted that Trump was going to do well, but not most people counted him out. Nate Silver, famous numbers guru,
Yeah.
was like, this is a joke. So a lot of people have been proven wrong by Donald Trump's rise. And, so I think now people are kind of like, well, Trump has done this, maybe he could really pull it out. And I just don't think he can, because just I think what a lot of people, as someone who's not like a professional writer or not like professionally connected to like the politics world, but follows it pretty closely, I think what a lot of people don't realize is that the average American does not follow politics pretty much at all.
Yeah.
I think a metaphor I read once, it may have been Chris Hayes writing this like a decade ago. He said that the average American voter, even someone who like will go out and vote, feels like it's a civic duty to vote and isn't like so out to see that they're not, they don't even vote. Like they kind of follow politics in the way that like if you follow a sport that you don't care about. So
like an
you're kind
Olympic sport or something.
Yeah, or like if you don't care about football and you're kind of like, oh, Super Bowl is this weekend, like who is it? Like who's playing?
Yeah.
So you're kind of like, oh, it's the Broncos and like where are they from? So that's kind of like an exaggerated. It's not exaggerated, but like most people do, like if you're on Twitter talking about politics, you are in the 99.9th percentile. Like you are a strange person, and so most people do not follow politics. So Trump has kind of exploited this in some ways because he's kind of activating people who feel dispossessed and screwed over by, the past 50 years of, free trade and neoliberalism and the conservative movement promising things and never delivering. But at the same time, to the average person out there, I don't think they think Donald Trump is a great guy. They see him as a joke and a slime ball. And so if he really is the candidate, people are going to be like, it's kind of like if you don't follow football and then it turns out that like a team from like a high school somehow made it into the Super Bowl, and you're like, what? A high school team is like in the Super Bowl? How did that happen? Like, there's no way they can win. I'm not going to root for them. Although I guess maybe you
would though, right?
Okay, so maybe it was more like a team of like racists, like racist high schoolers. Like the alt-right assembled a football squad and somehow made it to the Super Bowl. And then you were like, oh no, these alt-right guys, I'm not going to root for them. I'm going to root for the Cowboys. So Hillary Clinton, everyone knows who she is. She's been around forever. She's a hack. Some people like her. Most people are like, Hillary Clinton, she knows what she's doing. And then they're like, Donald Trump, this guy is a fucking joke. So I think there's going to be a rainbow coalition of Americans. It's going to be a beautiful thing to see. There's going to be Mormons, Mormon housewives. There's going to be the elderly. There's going to be the young. Like, he's going to lose. If he actually is the nominee, which is not a sure thing, he's going to lose. He's going to win like 35% of the vote at most.
Okay.
So I'm putting my marker down right here.
One, everyone said Donald Trump had a 20% ceiling. And then it was 25%. And then it was 35%. And then, he's getting like 48% of the vote. Like, right. So, like, I think that's worth keeping in mind. He's been able. He
hasn't gotten over, even in the GOP primary electorate, I believe he has not gotten over like 48% or something, like in Mississippi.
I mean,
like he hasn't. I don't think Cruz has. Maybe Cruz got over 50% somewhere. 20%. Okay, but he can't even. He's not even getting a majority in like the Mississippi primary. He's getting a plurality.
Yeah, well, negative partisanship. No, but
he scrambles the things because he's not a conservative. He's like all he believes in is himself, and he'll say whatever it takes in the moment he's in. So he has no fixed belief. He's a northerner.
Like, those guys should hate his guts. Like, northerners don't understand how much southerners hate the North. Like, when I would go visit my mom and she would like proudly tell the guy at CVS, like, my daughter lives in New York City, they'd be like, oh, I'm sorry.
So where are you from originally?
Well, my mom was in North Carolina now. I'm from Atlanta.
Okay.
So one of the first people to like bet in a betting market on Donald Trump was this Scientologist in England. And he said, like, I think people don't understand how powerful celebrity is in America, how social media has changed everything, how, you can become an icon and you can communicate directly with people. And of course a Scientologist understands that, right? Like Scientologists went through John Travolta, Tom Cruise, like.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a great metaphor, actually, I think, because I think Donald Trump is the Scientology of politicians, because anyone on the outside, so Scientology has something in it that attracts a certain type of person, so much so that they literally sign billion-year contracts over to Scientology. But most people, Scientology has not taken over the world.
That's true.
It is a very strange thing, and anyone the more people find out about it, the more the average person is like, this is a deranged cult. Like, how has the government not broken this up? Like, if you read Go and Clear, the book that Lawrence Wright wrote about it,
yeah,
it is like, it's crazy. It's a great book. I recommend everyone read it.
Yeah, but how long did it take for that to come out? I mean, this is obviously not a perfect metaphor, but like they did get tax exempt status. Like,
so Trump like does know some deep things about like human psychology and politics that a lot of people didn't know or forgot. But he's also a repellent figure. He's like Tom Cruise jumping up and down, or like when Tom Cruise had that video where he has the big medal on his chest. That's like the Scientology like Order of Merit or whatever. Like that is Donald Trump. So some people are like, wow, look at Tom Cruise. He has this huge medal on his chest. Wow, Scientology. But like the average person is like, what is going on? This is bizarre. So I think that's the dynamic that's going to play itself out. And Hillary Clinton is going to run the Nixon 68 campaign and be a steady hand at the tiller and is going to win 45 states. That's my prediction.
I mean, probably. Okay, probably. But I'm just saying, I think it'll be a lot closer than people assume. Scientology and Trump also offer the same thing, which is like, do you feel sad? Are you poor? Well, it's not your fault. It's someone else's fault. It's these like forces who are manipulating you, and you can't even see them, right? Like they offer the same thing. So
if Trump starts talking about engrams and operating thetans, then I think we really should be scared. Yeah.
I would be like,
Okay, and just to bring it full circle, when you said sponsored content, one of the most infamous sponsored content disasters was the Church of Scientology ran a sponsored content ad on The Atlantic that they took it down pretty quickly, but it was a huge embarrassment, a huge black eye, because it looked like a regular Atlantic article, but it was the byline was Church of Scientology or something. It was about how great David Miscavige, the like psychopath who runs the Church of Scientology, like he had like a banner year, and like how this was ever approved by like the executives at The Atlantic is beyond me. But
even smart, educated people can be hoodwinked by people like that.
Okay, but I mean, they were getting some money out of the deal, and I guess the American people. I mean, Trump. I think Trump fools a subset of people into thinking that he really is a winner and he's really great. And look at him, like 3 different beautiful women married him. Like, isn't that like what a great guy? And he's so rich, like he has to be great. So like, there's a certain type of person who that appeals to. And that's the type of person who maybe if they're walking through the subway and they see someone with 2 pieces of metal, will be like, I should talk to this person and get what my reading or whatever that process is called. And then, some of those people get sucked into Scientology. And some of the guy who wrote Crash, even though Crash is one of the worst movies that ever won Best Picture, is obviously an intelligent person. And somehow he was sucked in. So there's a certain type of person who falls for this complete and utter horse crap. But the wise and great American people are not going to fall for it. That's what I think.
Well, we'll see. We'll just have to wait and see.
We shall see. Okay, maybe you can come back on, before the inauguration of the Trump presidency, and we'll see what the 4chan celebrants are doing, and I'll be broadcasting from the bunker, and maybe they'll have accepted you into their ranks by then. But this has been a really fascinating conversation. We will link to all the pieces we mentioned below. You can subscribe to this podcast in iTunes. Is there anything else you want to mention?
No, that's it.
Okay, so thanks so much for coming on. Thank you for redoing this. I think we did a better job in take 2. And thanks to all of our viewers and listeners, and we'll see you again next time.
Thanks for having me.